Margaret Whitmore grabbed the bride's bouquet from 8-year-old flower girl Amara's hands and hurled it into the gutter. "Get this ghetto trash off my street before I call immigration on every last one of you." Her spit landed on Devin Williams's polished dress shoes as she screamed inches from his face. The groom stood motionless, jaw tight, while his new wife Zara clutched her ivory dress. 60 wedding guests watched in horror as Margaret kicked over the champagne table, crystal exploding across Maple Ridge Drive. "You people think you can turn our neighborhood into a project?" She pointed a manicured finger at the elegant outdoor ceremony. "Not while I'm breathing." Devin's hand moved to his platinum cufflinks. A small city seal caught the afternoon sunlight. Have you ever watched someone's prejudice backfire so completely that it transformed an entire community forever? Margaret's trembling fingers jabbed at her iPhone. 911? I need the police at 847 Maple Ridge Drive immediately. Her voice cracked with manufactured urgency. "What's your emergency, ma'am?" The dispatcher's calm tone contrasted sharply with Margaret's hysteria. "There's a massive illegal gathering, loud music, public intoxication, probably drug activity. It's a bunch of urban people who don't belong in this neighborhood." She paced her driveway, watching the elegant wedding reception through narrowed eyes. The dispatcher paused. "Ma'am, can you describe the nature of the disturbance?" "Look, I pay $8,000 in property taxes for peace and quiet. These people are destroying our community standards with their ghetto celebration." Devin approached slowly, his hands visible and non-threatening. "Ma'am, perhaps we can resolve this neighborly." "Don't you dare patronize me!" Margaret whirled around, pointing accusingly. "I know exactly what you people are trying to pull here." While speaking to 911, Margaret opened her Safe Haven Willowbrook neighborhood app. Her fingers flew across the screen as she started a live stream to her 47 followers. "Emergency situation on Maple Ridge, protecting our community from these people." Comments began appearing immediately. "Call the HOA. Property values tanking. This is why we moved to Willowbrook." 16-year-old Destiny Johnson, Zara's niece, discreetly started her own Instagram live from behind the dessert table. "Y'all need to see this Karen losing her absolute mind at my aunt's wedding." Viewers trickled in. 23, 45, 73. The numbers climbed steadily as word spread through teenage networks faster than Margaret could dial backup. The police dispatch radio crackled through Margaret's phone speaker. "Unit 23, domestic disturbance call, 847 Maple Ridge Drive. ETA 12 minutes. Margaret's eyes lit up triumphantly. "Did you hear that? 12 minutes until you people pack up this illegal assembly?" Devin pulled a thick folder from inside his tuxedo jacket. "Ma'am, everything here is properly permitted through the appropriate municipal departments." His voice remained steady, professional. Margaret snatched the papers, scanning them frantically. "Permitted by who? Your cousin at City Hall?" She waved the documents dismissively. "These could be fake for all I know." The elderly Mrs. Sinclair next door emerged onto her porch, shaking her head as she filmed through her window. Ring doorbells across the street captured every angle in crystal-clear 4K resolution. 3 different live streams now broadcasted the confrontation to growing audiences. "Where are your green cards?" Margaret screamed at the catering staff, who continued serving elegant hors d'oeuvres with professional dignity. "I'm documenting everything for my lawsuit." Devin's best man, a tall man in a dress blue uniform, stepped forward slightly. Captain Jerome Washington's presence commanded immediate respect, but Margaret was too focused on her tirade to notice the military bearing. "Ma'am," Devin tried again, "we've lived here for 3 years. We've actually met before at—" "I don't care where you think you live!" Margaret's voice reached a pitch that made several children cover their ears. "This is our neighborhood. We have standards." She grabbed her phone again, typing furiously in the neighborhood group chat. "Emergency at Maple Ridge. Need all residents to witness this chaos." Within minutes, 3 neighbors emerged from their houses. Mrs. Patterson clutched a folder of HOA violation forms. Mr. Kozlov held his phone, checking decibel readings with an app. The teenagers across the street switched to TikTok, hashtagging #Willowbrook wedding. "Look at this invasion!" Margaret gestured wildly at the reception. "Blocked driveways, excessive noise, public intoxication. Tell your parents this isn't the project." 8-year-old Marcus, Devon's nephew, tugged on his uncle's jacket. "Uncle D, why is that lady so angry at our family?" Devon knelt down, his voice gentle. "Sometimes people get confused about what makes a community strong, little man." Margaret overheard and exploded. "Don't you dare brainwash that child with your victim mentality. This is about property values and community standards." The live stream comments were multiplying. Destiny's Instagram, 156 viewers and climbing TikTok, teen, 89 viewers, growing rapidly. Neighborhood app, 23 active commenters arguing, "I'm calling my husband Harold," Margaret announced loudly. "He's a lawyer. We'll shut this down permanently with legal action." Devon's grandmother, 78-year-old Evelyn Williams, approached slowly with her walker. Her corsage displayed a small pin. Willowbrook City Council, 1987-2012. She'd served this community before most current residents were born. "Young lady," Evelyn's voice carried decades of authority. "I've lived in Willowbrook for 40 years. This is how neighbors should treat each other?" Margaret barely glanced at the elderly woman. "Ma'am, with all due respect, you don't understand what's happening to our neighborhood. These people are—" "I understand perfectly," Evelyn interrupted quietly. "The question is whether you do." Devon checked his watch, 4:02 p.m. The ceremony was supposed to begin at 4:15. His bride, Zara, stood with her bridesmaids, trying to maintain composure while their special day crumbled around them. "Police are coming!" Margaret announced to her live stream audience, now reaching 200 viewers. "Finally, someone will restore order to our community." The sound of sirens grew faint in the distance. Devon touched his cufflinks again. The small city seal caught afternoon light like a hidden promise. His face remained calm, but something shifted in his posture. The gathering storm was about to meet an unexpected force. 2 patrol cars rounded the corner at 4:05 p.m., their presence immediately shifting the energy on Maple Ridge Drive. Officers Martinez and Rodriguez stepped out, scanning the scene with practiced caution. Margaret rushed toward them like a woman possessed, waving her phone triumphantly. "Officers, thank God you're here! These people have been terrorizing our neighborhood for hours!" Her voice pitched higher with manufactured urgency. "Noise violations, blocked driveways, public disturbance, the whole circus." Officer Martinez, a 20-year veteran, surveyed the elegant wedding setup with confusion. White linens, professional catering staff, a string quartet playing softly in the background. Crystal glasses caught afternoon sunlight. Nothing resembled the chaos Margaret described. "Ma'am, this appears to be a private wedding ceremony," Rodriguez observed, his tone measured. "What specifically is the disturbance?" Margaret thrust her phone forward, showing her live stream audience of 312 viewers. "Look at this invasion! They've turned our quiet residential street into some kind of urban block party." Behind her, the social media storm intensified. Destiny's Instagram Live had reached 847 viewers, with comments flooding the screen. "This Karen is unhinged. Someone get this woman help. Poor bride and groom. This is going viral." The TikTok teenager across the street switched angles, capturing Margaret's interaction with police. #Willowbrook wedding began trending locally as shares multiplied exponentially. Ring doorbell cameras across the neighborhood automatically saved footage to cloud storage. "I demand you arrest them for violating city ordinances," Margaret continued, pulling out printed HOA guidelines. Section 12.4 clearly prohibits excessive gatherings without proper notification. Devon approached the officers calmly, his hands visible and non-threatening. "Officers, I apologize for any confusion. Everything here is properly permitted through the city." He gestured toward his thick folder of documentation. "Permitted by who?" Margaret shrieked, grabbing at the papers again. Your homeboy at City Hall? These documents could be forgeries. Officer Rodriguez's radio crackled. He stepped aside, speaking quietly into his shoulder mic. Margaret couldn't hear the conversation, but she noticed his posture change slightly as he glanced back at Devon with something approaching recognition. "Ma'am," Martinez addressed Margaret, "we need to verify the permits and noise levels before taking any action." "Verify! Verify!" Margaret's voice reached a crescendo. "I'm a tax-paying resident of this community. My word should be enough." The wedding party huddled near the reception area, elderly relatives clutching chairs for support. Devon's mother, diabetic and stressed, checked her blood sugar monitor with shaking hands. Children clung to their parents, confused by the escalating adult conflict. Mrs. Patterson approached from 3 houses down, carrying her HOA violation forms. "Margaret's right. We need to protect our property values." She began documenting perceived infractions: unauthorized parking, excessive decorations, potential fire code violations. Mr. Kozlov emerged with his phone, checking decibel readings. "Current noise level, 58 decibels, he announced. "City ordinance allows up to 75 decibels until 10 p.m. on weekends." Margaret ignored the data. Numbers don't matter when our entire neighborhood character is under attack. Her phone buzzed constantly with notifications. Her neighborhood app post had generated 127 responses in 10 minutes. Some supported her stance, but others questioned her aggressive language. "Margaret, this seems excessive. Maybe we should let people celebrate." "The racism is showing, hun." She deleted negative comments frantically while live-streaming her police interaction to 1,234 viewers and counting. "Officers, I've documented everything," Margaret announced loudly for her audience. "Noise levels, traffic violations, suspicious behavior. This is about protecting our property values from certain elements." Captain Washington, still in his dress blues, approached slowly. His military bearing and decorated uniform commanded immediate respect from the officers, but Margaret remained oblivious to the hierarchy developing around her. More neighbors emerged from houses, phones recording from multiple angles. The elderly Mrs. Sinclair filmed through her window, shaking her head disapprovingly, not at the wedding, but at Margaret's behavior. Officer Rodriguez checked his official sound meter, 62 decibels, well within city limits for afternoon gatherings. "Ma'am, the noise level appears to be within legal parameters," he reported professionally. "Legal parameters?" Margaret's face flushed crimson. "Since when do these people get to define what's legal in our neighborhood?" A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Even her supporters recognized the overtly racial language. Live comments exploded with outrage. "Did she just say what I think she said? And screenshot that for evidence. This is 2024, not 1954. Somebody stop this woman." Devon's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. His uncle, Reverend Williams, placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. The family had endured worse, but on their wedding day, surrounded by loved ones, the pain cut deeper. 2 additional patrol cars arrived as backup, responding to the crowd size rather than any actual disturbance. Sergeant Thompson emerged, surveying the scene with experienced eyes. 4 officers now surrounded the situation. "What's the situation here?" Thompson asked his officers quietly. Rodriguez hesitated, glancing toward Devon again. "Noise complaint, but everything appears to be properly permitted and within ordinance limits." Margaret overheard and exploded. "Within limits? Within limits? Look at this chaos. Drug activity, gang colors, probable immigration violations." The accusations flew like bullets, each one more desperate than the last. Devon remained still as stone, but his wedding ring caught the light as his hands slowly clenched. Channel 7 News van rounded the corner, alerted by the viral social media activity. Reporter Sarah Kim jumped out with her camera crew, immediately recognizing a developing story. 2 more news vans followed within minutes. Margaret's eyes lit up with vindication. Finally! Real journalists who'll tell the truth about what's happening to our neighborhood. She rushed toward the cameras, smoothing her hair and adjusting her designer blouse. This was her moment to save Willowbrook from invasion. "Ma'am, Sarah Kim, Channel 7 News. Can you explain the situation here? These people moved into our community and think they can do whatever they want." Margaret gestured wildly at the wedding party. "Loud music, blocked traffic, total disregard for our standards. We pay premium taxes for peace and quiet." The camera captured every word as Margaret's audience grew to over 1,500 viewers across multiple platforms. Comments poured in faster than moderators could process them. Her Willowbrook neighbors began recognizing her voice from their own feeds. 3 teenage neighbors started their own live streams, creating a multi-angle documentation of the confrontation. The local Facebook group, Willowbrook Community Watch, exploded with real-time updates and competing narratives. Devin stood quietly, observing the media circus with calculating eyes. He checked his platinum watch. 4:12 p.m. 3 minutes until ceremony time. His bride Zara fought back tears, her perfect day dissolving into a nightmare. "Officers," he said calmly, "my family has waited long enough. May we proceed with our wedding?" "Proceed?" Margaret whirled around, planting herself directly in front of the wedding arch. "Proceed? You're not proceeding anywhere until we sort out this illegal assembly." She crossed her arms defiantly. Behind her, the string quartet continued playing softly, creating a surreal contrast between elegant music and escalating confrontation. "Ma'am, you need to step aside," Officer Martinez warned. "You're interfering with a legally permitted event." "I'm protecting my community," Margaret shouted for the cameras. "Someone has to take a stand against this invasion." The word hung in the air like poison gas. Social media exploded with screenshot captures and video clips. #Willowbrook. Karen began trending alongside #Willowbrook wedding. Devin stepped forward slowly, reaching into his jacket pocket. His fingers found something small but significant. The moment of revelation approached like gathering thunder. "Ma'am." His voice carried quiet authority that made everyone stop talking. "I think there's been a fundamental misunderstanding here." Devin slowly removed his tuxedo jacket, revealing a custom dress shirt with subtle city seal embroidery on the collar. The afternoon sun caught the metallic thread as he folded the jacket carefully over his arm. Every movement was deliberate, measured, and presidential. He reached into his inside pocket and withdrew a leather wallet. From it, he extracted an official identification card and approached Officer Rodriguez with the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to command. "Good afternoon, officers," Devin said, extending the ID with practiced authority. Rodriguez took one look at the credential, and his entire posture transformed. His back straightened, shoulders squared, and he immediately stepped back with military precision. "Good afternoon, Your Honor," Rodriguez said clearly, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent crowd. The words hit Margaret like a physical blow. Her live stream audience of 1,847 viewers erupted in real-time chaos. "Wait, what did he say? Your Honor? Is that the mayor? Oh my God, Karen called cops on the mayor. She's so done. Screenshot everything." Margaret's phone nearly slipped from her trembling hands. "Your Honor? What does that mean? What's happening?" Officer Martinez immediately followed his partner's lead, standing at attention. "Sir, we apologize for any inconvenience. We were responding to a noise complaint." Devin's voice remained calm, professional. "No apology necessary, officers. You're simply doing your jobs." He gestured toward Margaret. Ms. Whitmore was exercising her civic duty by reporting concerns to proper authorities. "Ms. Whitmore?" Margaret stuttered, her world tilting sideways. "How do you know my name? Who are you?" "Ma'am," Devin replied evenly, "I'm Devin Williams, mayor of Willowbrook. We've actually met twice before, at city council meetings where you've addressed noise ordinances and municipal landscaping contracts." The revelation detonated across social media like a digital nuclear bomb. Destiny's Instagram live viewer count exploded past 3,000 as shares multiplied exponentially. TikTok algorithm caught the viral momentum, pushing hashtag Mayor Wedding to trending status nationally. Comments flooded every platform. Mayor's wedding interrupted by racist Karen. She called cops on the mayor. This is the best plot twist ever. Someone make this into a movie. Black excellence meets white privilege. Margaret staggered backward, her designer heels clicking frantically on pavement. Mayor? But you live... This can't be happening. Ma'am, I've resided at 845 Maple Ridge Drive for 3 years, Devon continued patiently. The house with the blue shutters, 2 doors down from yours. We've exchanged pleasantries over the mailbox several times. Her mind raced through 3 years of interactions. The polite neighbor who always waved, the man who helped her carry groceries during her hip surgery, the one who donated anonymously to her church fundraiser. She'd seen his name on the thank you list. The news crews pivoted instantly. Reporter Sarah Kim pushed forward with her cameraman. Mayor Williams, we had no idea this was your wedding ceremony. Good afternoon, Sarah, Devon nodded professionally. Yes, this is my wedding day. My wife Zara and I were hoping for a quiet neighborhood celebration. Margaret's phone buzzed frantically with incoming calls. Her business line. Harold's cell. Her elderly mother. The notifications cascaded as her public meltdown reached viral status across every social platform simultaneously. This has to be some mistake, she whispered, but her voice carried to the multiple live streams. You can't be the mayor. I'm just what, Ms. Whitmore? Devon's question hung in the air like a challenge, captured by 17 different cameras. The silence stretched uncomfortably as every lens focused on Margaret's face. Her racist assumptions collided with undeniable reality, creating cognitive dissonance visible to thousands of viewers in real time. Captain Washington stepped forward, removing his dress hat ceremoniously. I can verify His Honor's identity. I'm Captain Jerome Washington, Police Department, and the groom's best man. Sergeant Thompson approached Devon with obvious respect. Sir, we'll handle this situation appropriately. Please accept our apologies for the disruption on your special day. Officers, Devon addressed them with mayoral authority. No apologies necessary. You responded to a citizen's complaint professionally and promptly. Margaret watched her phone screen in horror as viewer counts climbed exponentially. Her Wi-Fi crashed from the traffic surge, but cellular towers carried her humiliation to every corner of the internet. Ma'am, Officer Rodriguez addressed Margaret formally, we need to discuss the nature of your complaint. The event appears fully permitted and within all city ordinances. Permitted? Margaret's voice cracked. He permitted his own wedding? Actually, Devon corrected gently, permits are processed through the Parks and Recreation Department. I recused myself from many decisions involving this address to avoid conflicts of interest. Standard municipal ethics protocol. He produced his thick folder of documentation with practiced efficiency. Permit number 2024-11847, filed March 15th, approved April 2nd, posted for public comment for 30 days. Fee paid in full, $2,847. Insurance certificate, $2 million liability coverage. Officer Martinez verified the documents with his scanner app. Everything appears legitimate and in order, sir. Noise levels well within weekend residential parameters. Devon's grandmother Evelyn approached slowly with her walker, her city council pin catching afternoon light. Her presence commanded immediate respect from the officers and growing crowd. Officers, this young man has served our community with distinction for 6 years, 2 as councilman, 4 as mayor. Willowbrook's youngest mayor in 70 years. Margaret stared at the elderly woman she'd dismissed minutes earlier. You're on the city council? Former councilwoman, dear. 40 years of service to Willowbrook. I helped draft many of the community standards you've been quoting incorrectly. Evelyn's voice carried decades of quiet authority. The wedding photographer, a consummate professional, continued documenting everything. These weren't the photos Devon and Zara had planned, but they would tell an important story about power, prejudice, and perseverance. Social media analytics showed explosive growth across all platforms. Instagram Live, 4,200 viewers, and climbing TikTok, 15,000 views in 20 minutes, going viral. Twitter. #Mayor. Wedding mentioned 8,000 times. Facebook. 200 shares per minute across 3 states. YouTube. 4 different live streams capturing angles. Margaret's Whitmore landscaping business page began receiving negative reviews in real time. 1-star ratings poured in as viewers identified her company through basic Google searches of Willowbrook city contractors. Local news apps sent push notifications. Breaking. Willowbrook mayor's wedding disrupted by neighbor. Viral, racist complaints backfire against mayor. Watch. City contractor attacks mayor's wedding. Ms. Whitmore, Devon continued with measured professionalism, your company has provided excellent service to our municipal parks. Whitmore Landscaping has maintained Memorial Park, City Hall grounds, and our recreational facilities for 5 years. The words hit like hammer blows. Margaret's livelihood depended entirely on city contracts worth $2.3 million annually. Her racist tirade against the mayor, her primary client, was being broadcast to thousands of witnesses with screenshot capabilities. Your annual contract includes Memorial Park renovation, spring flower installation, athletic field maintenance, and holiday decorations. Your crew does beautiful work maintaining our community spaces. Each professional compliment felt like a knife twist, highlighting the catastrophic nature of Margaret's mistake. Your Honor, she stammered. I didn't know. This is all a terrible misunderstanding. I'm not sure what part constitutes a misunderstanding, Devon replied calmly. You've been quite clear about your feelings regarding these people in our neighborhood. The phrase, captured on multiple recordings, would follow Margaret forever. Employment lawyers across the city began saving screenshots for future discrimination cases. Channel 9 news van arrived, followed by Channel 12 and 3 online news streamers. The quiet residential street transformed into a media circus as the story gained national momentum. Ma'am, Officer Rodriguez asked formally, would you like to amend your complaint? The noise levels are within legal parameters, all permits are valid, and the event is clearly a lawful gathering. Margaret looked around desperately. Her neighbors who'd supported her earlier now avoided eye contact. Mrs. Patterson quietly retreated to her house. Mr. Kozlov deleted his own recordings and slipped away. I want to speak to your supervisor, she said weakly. Sergeant Thompson stepped forward with authority. I am the supervisor, ma'am, and I've worked closely with Mayor Williams on community policing initiatives for 4 years. He's transformed police-community relations in Willowbrook. Devon checked his platinum watch. 4:18 p.m. Officers, with your permission, I'd like to proceed with my wedding ceremony. My wife has been extraordinarily patient with this disruption. Of course, Your Honor, Thompson replied respectfully. We'll ensure no further interruptions to your celebration. Margaret stood alone in her driveway, watching her world collapse in real time. Her live stream continued broadcasting to 2,100 viewers who were screen recording everything for permanent internet preservation. Children from neighboring houses peeked through windows, their parents explaining why the important man in the fancy suit was being so nice to the mean lady who'd been yelling. The bride Zara finally spoke, her voice carrying clearly, Devon, let's have our wedding. We've waited long enough. Devon smiled at his wife with genuine warmth, then addressed the crowd professionally. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to witness a celebration of love in our community. As the wedding party prepared to finally begin their ceremony, Devon made one final gesture that would change everything Margaret thought she knew about power, community, and consequences in Willowbrook. Devon adjusted his cufflinks and addressed the growing crowd with the measured authority of someone accustomed to public speaking. News cameras focused on his every word as he transformed from groom to mayor before their eyes. "Since we have assembled here as a community," he began, his voice carrying clearly across Maple Ridge Drive, "perhaps this is an appropriate time to discuss municipal standards and vendor accountability." Margaret's face was drained of color. She understood the implications immediately. Her business contracts hung in the balance of whatever came next. Devon retrieved a tablet from his wedding planner's bag, the device containing years of municipal data at his fingertips. Current noise level measurement shows 64 decibels, well within our weekend residential limit of 75 decibels until 10 p.m. Officer Martinez confirmed with his official meter. "Verified, Your Honor. No ordinance violations detected." "Our outdoor event permit was filed March 15th through proper channels," Devon continued, his tone remaining professorial rather than accusatory. "Processing fee of $2,847 paid in full. Fire department inspection completed May 1st with commendations for safety protocols." Margaret's hands shook as she realized every procedural detail had been followed meticulously. Her complaints had no legal foundation. "Ms. Whitmore, as a long-standing city contractor, you're familiar with our vendor conduct standards, correct?" Yes, Your Honor," Margaret whispered, her live stream audience now reaching 2,400 viewers documenting her professional downfall. Devon pulled up the relevant municipal code on his tablet. City Charter Section 12.3.7 states that all contractors must demonstrate community respect and professional behavior in their interactions with residents. He read directly from the legal text. Vendors engaging in discriminatory behavior, harassment, or actions contrary to Willowbrook's stated values of inclusivity may face contract review, suspension, or termination following due process. The crowd listened in absolute silence as Devon methodically built his case using existing law rather than emotional appeals. "Your company, Whitmore Landscaping, currently holds multiple municipal contracts valued at $2.3 million annually," he continued with spreadsheet precision. "Memorial Park renovation, $847,000. Spring flower installation, $234,000. Athletic field maintenance, $1.2 million. Winter holiday decorations, $89,000. Margaret's business attorney would later describe this moment as watching a professional execution by PowerPoint. "Today's incident has generated 847 formal complaints to the mayor's office in the last 2 hours, Devon stated, checking his phone notifications. "Our non-discrimination hotline has received 312 calls. The city's reputation as an inclusive community is now being questioned by tourism boards and business development councils." Social media analytics painted an even grimmer picture. #Whitmore. Karen was trending nationally alongside #Mayor Wedding. Margaret's business Google rating had plummeted to 1.2 stars with over 3,000 new reviews. "Ma'am," Devon addressed Margaret directly, "would you like to review the video evidence of today's statements before we proceed further?" He gestured toward the multiple cameras and live streams. "Your remarks about these people, ghetto celebrations, and urban invasions have been documented by 17 different sources and viewed by approximately 15,000 people in real time." Margaret's desperate backtracking began immediately. "Your Honor, I never meant anything racial. I was concerned about noise and property values. You're taking my words out of context." "Context," Devon repeated thoughtfully. "Let's examine that context through municipal policy." He pulled up another document on his tablet. "In 2022, your company signed our updated vendor agreement, which includes explicit anti-discrimination pledges. You committed to upholding Willowbrook's motto, unity in diversity." The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. Margaret had literally signed a promise not to do exactly what she'd spent the afternoon doing. "Your business benefits significantly from city diversity initiatives," Devon continued. Minority-owned supplier requirements have increased your revenue by 23% since 2021. Community beautification projects in ethnically diverse neighborhoods represent 35% of your annual contracts. Each statistic landed like a precision strike, demonstrating how Margaret's racism directly contradicted her financial interests. Reporter Sarah Kim stepped forward with her microphone. Mayor Williams, what are the potential consequences for Ms. Whitmore's company? Municipal vendor agreements require 3-tier review processes, Devon explained professionally. First, immediate performance evaluation. Second, public hearing within 72 hours. Third, community impact assessment. Margaret's phone rang continuously. Her business partner, concerned employees, worried suppliers. Word was spreading through industry networks faster than she could manage. Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., City Council chambers will host a public contractor review hearing, Devon announced. Ms. Whitmore may present her defense of today's actions. Community members may provide testimony regarding vendor conduct standards. The hearing would be live-streamed for transparency, ensuring Margaret's humiliation would reach an even wider audience. Your Honor, Margaret pleaded desperately, I apologize publicly for my poor choice of words. This doesn't represent my true feelings about our diverse community. Devon's response was measured and devastating. Ms. Whitmore, municipal partnerships require consistent demonstration of stated values, not reactive apologies following public exposure. Sergeant Thompson approached respectfully. Sir, would you like us to document this incident officially for the contractor review? Please prepare a complete report, Sergeant. Include all witness statements and media documentation. The city attorney will need comprehensive records for Tuesday's proceedings. Margaret watched her professional world disintegrate in real time. Whitmore Landscaping employed 23 local residents whose livelihoods now hung in balance because of her racist outburst. I want to emphasize, Devon continued, addressing the cameras, that any decision regarding Ms. Whitmore's contracts will consider the impact on her employees and their families. Municipal justice should be measured and fair. Even while destroying Margaret's credibility, Devon demonstrated the grace and wisdom that had made him Willowbrook's youngest mayor in 70 years. However, his tone sharpened slightly. City standards must be maintained. Taxpayer dollars cannot support vendors whose public behavior contradicts our community values. The economic reality was stark. Margaret's company faced potential bankruptcy if city contracts were terminated. No private clients could replace $2.3 million in annual municipal revenue. Channel 12 reporter James Wilson asked, Mayor Williams, how does this incident reflect on Willowbrook's commitment to racial equality? Today demonstrates that our systems work, Devon replied confidently. When discrimination occurs, our community responds. When vendors violate conduct standards, accountability follows. When leadership is tested, we choose justice over convenience. Margaret made one final desperate appeal. Your Honor, I've lived in Willowbrook for 15 years. My company has served this community faithfully. One mistake shouldn't destroy everything I've built. Devon paused thoughtfully before responding. Ms. Whitmore, one mistake suggests an isolated incident. However, your statements today revealed underlying attitudes that directly contradict your sworn vendor commitments. He gestured toward his wedding party. These are my neighbors, my constituents, my family. Your assessment of their character and their right to exist peacefully in our community raises fundamental questions about your fitness for municipal partnership. The crowd listened intently as Devon delivered what amounted to a masterclass in principled leadership under pressure. Tuesday's hearing will determine whether Whitmore Landscaping can demonstrate genuine change and community commitment, or whether Willowbrook needs partners whose values align more closely with our municipal charter. Margaret stood isolated in her driveway, her business empire crumbling with each professionally delivered sentence. The livestream audience had swelled to over 3,000 viewers, watching her professional execution in real time. Ms. Whitmore, Devon concluded, I strongly recommend consulting legal counsel before Tuesday's proceedings. The city's vendor agreement includes morality clauses that have been thoroughly tested in municipal court. With that final warning, Devon turned toward his wedding party. Officers, thank you for your professionalism. Neighbors, thank you for your patience. Media, please respect our ceremony. Ms. Whitmore, I'll see you Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. sharp. And the mayor had spoken. Justice would follow due process, and Margaret Whitmore faced the consequences of assuming that power, privilege, and prejudice would protect her from accountability in a community where the person she'd attacked held the ultimate authority. The wedding ceremony finally began at 4:31 p.m., witnessed by over 200 people, including officers, neighbors, media crews, and thousands of live-stream viewers. Devon took Zara's hands as Reverend Williams addressed the extraordinary gathering. "Dearly beloved, we gather to celebrate love in the face of adversity," the Reverend began, his voice carrying special meaning after the afternoon's events. "Today we've witnessed how grace conquers hatred, how dignity defeats discrimination." Margaret watched from her window, curtains barely parted, as her neighbors celebrated the man she'd tried to humiliate. Her phone buzzed incessantly with calls from reporters, angry customers, and worried employees. By evening, the story dominated local news cycles. Channel 7's breaking news alert read, "Willowbrook mayor's wedding interrupted by racist neighbor. City contracts under review." Margaret's business website crashed from negative traffic. Yelp suspended reviews temporarily due to unusual activity. Her Google business rating plummeted to 1.1 stars, with over 4,000 one-star reviews citing racist behavior and unprofessional conduct. Tuesday morning arrived with city council chambers packed beyond capacity. Margaret entered with her attorney, carrying a prepared statement and medical documentation of stress-induced anxiety attacks. "Your Honor," she read from trembling papers, "I displayed unconscious bias and catastrophically poor judgment. My words were inexcusable and do not represent my true values or my company's commitment to serving all Willowbrook residents." 23 community members testified during the 4-hour hearing. Devon recused himself from the decision, allowing Deputy Mayor Catherine Jenkins to lead the review committee. Mrs. Sinclair spoke in halting English. "In 40 years here, I never see such ugly words at happy celebrations. But I also saw Margaret help me with groceries last winter. People can change if they choose." The committee's verdict balanced justice with compassion. Whitmore Landscaping would remain on probationary contractor status for 18 months. Margaret personally must complete 40 hours of cultural competency training, submit quarterly diversity reports, and perform 100 hours of community service at the Willowbrook Community Center. "This isn't about punishment," Deputy Mayor Jenkins explained. "It's about rehabilitation and ensuring our vendors reflect our community values." The systemic changes Devon implemented proved lasting. The Willowbrook Welcome Initiative launched within 30 days. Establishing new protocols for discrimination complaints and community conflict resolution. The Neighborhood Watch app now required verified identity. No anonymous posting allowed. Quarterly Good Neighbor recognition programs celebrated inclusive community building. New vendor agreements included strengthened anti-discrimination language with specific behavioral expectations. Margaret's transformation wasn't instant, but it was measurable. Her mandatory training sessions, initially attended with grudging resentment, gradually opened her eyes to unconscious biases she'd never acknowledged. "I didn't realize how my words sounded to others," she admitted during a community forum 6 months later. Impact matters more than intent. Her community service hours at the center put her in daily contact with the diverse families she'd previously feared. Slowly, genuine relationships replaced stereotypical assumptions. Whitmore Landscaping's business model evolved too. Margaret hired 3 employees from underrepresented communities, not from legal obligation, but because training had taught her about untapped talent pools. "Best workers I've ever had," she confessed to Devon during a chance encounter at the grocery store 9 months after the wedding. "I almost lost my business because of my own ignorance." 1 year later, Willowbrook was featured in Municipal Monthly magazine as a model for inclusive governance. Margaret's company won a Regional Diversity Excellence Award from the Municipal Contractors Association, an outcome nobody could have predicted from her viral meltdown. Devon and Zara's first anniversary celebration became an annual community tradition. The Unity Day barbecue drew hundreds of residents to Memorial Park for food, music, and relationship building across cultural lines. Margaret contributed landscaping services, initially under supervision, but eventually as a trusted community partner. Her story became a teaching tool in local schools about the possibility of personal growth and redemption. Property values in Willowbrook increased 12% over the year, driven by the community's reputation for successfully managing diversity challenges. The viral wedding story, initially devastating to the city's image, ultimately demonstrated effective leadership and systemic problem-solving. Change doesn't happen overnight, Devon reflected during a mayoral conference where he spoke about crisis leadership. But it happens when communities choose accountability over anger, process over punishment. Margaret still struggled with ingrained biases, but her public commitment to growth made her accountable to neighbors who monitored her progress with cautious optimism. The transformation wasn't perfect, but it was real. One racist outburst had inadvertently created a stronger, more intentional community where differences were acknowledged, addressed, and ultimately celebrated. Willowbrook became proof that real-life stories of racial reconciliation were possible when leadership prioritized systematic change over symbolic gestures, when justice focused on rehabilitation rather than destruction, and when communities chose to grow together rather than tear each other apart. Part 7. Aftermath and Call to Action, a 500 words target. 3 years later, Devon Williams stood in the same spot where Margaret had thrown his wedding bouquet into the gutter. Now he held a proclamation declaring Willowbrook America's Model Inclusive Community by the National Municipal League. The transformation had ripple effects beyond anyone's expectations. Harvard Kennedy School developed a case study titled Crisis Leadership in Local Government, the Williams Wedding Response. 23 cities adopted variations of the Willowbrook welcome policies. Margaret Whitmore approached the podium at the annual Unity Day celebration, her hands steadier than they'd been in years. 3 years ago, I stood in this same park as the worst version of myself, she told the crowd of 800 residents. Today, I understand that real community means everyone belongs. Her landscaping company had become a regional leader in inclusive hiring practices. The business that nearly collapsed from her racist outburst now thrived with contracts spanning 5 municipalities, all seeking vendors committed to diversity excellence. I'm not proud of who I was, Margaret continued, but I'm grateful for the second chance this community gave me to become someone better. The crowd applauded, not for her past mistakes, but for her genuine transformation witnessed over 3 years of consistent growth and community service. Devon's approval rating had climbed to 89%, the highest in state history. Zara's non-profit work expanded to 12 neighboring cities. Their wedding story inspired a documentary, Real-Life Stories, When Prejudice Meets Justice, which won awards at film festivals focused on touching stories of social change. These weren't fairy tale endings, but real-world examples of how systematic responses to discrimination could create lasting change. The viral moment became a catalyst for policy innovations that protected other families from similar harassment. Black Voices Uncut moments like this demonstrated that quiet strength often defeats loud prejudice more effectively than confrontation or revenge. Devon's measured response proved that intelligence trumps intimidation when leaders choose systematic justice over emotional reactions. Young people studying the case learned valuable lessons about power, privilege, and the possibility of personal redemption. Margaret's transformation showed that even deeply ingrained biases could change through sustained effort and community accountability. The story's lasting impact extended beyond Willowbrook. Municipal leaders nationwide referenced the Williams Standard when developing vendor conduct policies. Police departments used the incident to train officers on de-escalation and community relationship building. Life stories like Devon and Margaret's proved that touching stories of racial reconciliation were possible when communities committed to growth rather than retribution, when systems changed alongside individual hearts. Real change happens in moments like these, Devon concluded his Unity Day speech, when we choose to build bridges instead of walls, when we transform conflict into conversation, when we prove that our differences make us stronger. Your voice matters in creating these transformations. Have you witnessed discrimination in your community? Share your story in the comments below. Real experiences create real change when we refuse to stay silent. Subscribe to Black Voices Uncut for more inspiring stories proving that measured justice defeats destructive prejudice every time. Hit that notification bell because transformation happens when communities choose accountability over anger. What would you have done in Devon's position? How can we build more inclusive communities in our own neighborhoods? Tell us your thoughts below, and remember, the most powerful response to hate isn't anger. It's organized, systematic change that protects everyone who comes after. Share this video with someone who needs to see how quiet strength conquers loud prejudice. Together, we're writing better life stories for the next generation.